Chapter 1. The Fresh Start. Elena arrived in Oakhaven on a Tuesday, a day when the sky was the color of a bruised plum. After years of working a high-pressure corporate job in London, she felt burnt out and desperate for a change of pace. She had purchased a small, weathered cottage on the edge of the cliffs, sight unseen. "You're brave," the estate agent had told her over the phone. "Most people find Oakhaven a bit peculiar." At the time, Eleanor had brushed the comment aside. Now, standing in the town square, she understood. The town was beautiful in a haunting way, with cobblestone streets that seemed to swallow the sound of her footsteps. The locals were polite but distant, offering thin smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. She decided to break the ice by visiting the local bookstore, the Dusty Page. Behind the counter sat a man who looked like he had been carved out of old oak. "Looking for something specific, or just killing time?" he asked, his voice like gravel. "Just exploring," Elena replied. "I'm Elena. I just moved into the Miller cottage." The man froze. He looked at her with an expression that was hard to pin down, a mix of pity and surprise. "I'm Silas. A word of advice, Elena. In Oakhaven, it's best not to poke your nose into things that don't concern you. If you hear a bell ringing at midnight, just stay inside." Chapter 2. The Ledger of Lost Hours. Eleanor wasn't one to be easily intimidated. That night, as she unpacked her boxes, she found a loose floorboard in the study. Tucked beneath it was a leather-bound ledger. She opened it, expecting recipes or old accounts. Instead, she found a list of names, dates, and prices. Julian Vane, 1994. The memory of his first daughter's birth. Price, a successful bakery business. Sarah Miller, 2010. The memory of her ambition to be an artist. Price, a peaceful life without anxiety. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Sarah Miller was the previous owner of her house. According to the ledger, Sarah had traded her dreams for a quiet life. It seemed too good to be true, yet the implications were horrifying. Was the prosperity of this town built on a foundation of forgotten identities? She spent the next few days beating around the bush, asking the neighbors about Sarah. Everyone gave the same answer. She was a lovely woman. Very content, always seemed to be on cloud nine until the day she disappeared. Chapter 3. The Midnight Bell. The mystery weighed heavily on her mind. On Friday night, exactly at 12, a low, resonant bell began to toll from the clock tower. Despite Silas's warning, Eleanor's curiosity got the better of her. She threw on a coat and stepped out into the thick, unnatural fog. She followed a group of townspeople, all walking in a rhythmic, trance-like state, toward the town square. Among them was the mayor, a man who usually appeared quite arrogant and loud, but was now silent and humble. They gathered around a stone well that Elena hadn't noticed before. The mayor stepped forward and dropped a small glowing orb into the water. As it sank, a wave of warmth washed over the crowd. For a moment, their faces looked younger, their burdens lighter. "It's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it?" Eleanor jumped. Silas was standing in the shadows behind her. "What are they doing?" she whispered, her heart racing. "They are paying the rent," Silas said sadly. "Oakhaven is a sanctuary. No one suffers here. No one feels the sting of failure. But the cost is high. We give up our most defining memories, the ones that hurt, but also the ones that make us who we are. If you hadn't come here, you would have eventually succumbed to the fog too." Chapter 4. The Point of No Return. Eleanor realized she was at a crossroads. She could join them, forget the stress of her past, the heartbreak of her failed relationships, and the exhaustion of her career. She could live a life of uninterrupted bliss. "But if I forget the bad things," Elena argued, "how will I appreciate the good?" If I don't remember my struggle, does my success even matter? Silas sighed. Most people think they can have their cake and eat it too. They think they can stay themselves while losing their pain. But pain is the ink we use to write our own stories. Suddenly the mayor turned toward them. His eyes were no longer vacant, they were sharp and predatory. A newcomer, he hissed. She hasn't made her first contribution, she is out of her depth. The crowd began to turn. Elena realized she had to make a run for it. She sprinted back toward her cottage, the ledger clutched to her chest. She needed to get to her car, but the fog was so dense she could barely see her hand in front of her face. Chapter 5. The Escape. She reached the cottage and scrambled for her keys. She could hear the footsteps of the townspeople on the gravel path. They weren't running. They didn't need to. They knew the roads better than she did. She hopped into her car and started the engine. It sputtered, then roared to life. She drove blindly, following the sound of the ocean waves until the fog began to thin. As she crossed the town limits, a sudden realization hit her. She looked down at the ledger on the passenger seat. The ink was fading, the names were disappearing. By the time she reached the main highway, the book was empty. She tried to remember the mayor's name. She tried to remember Silas's face. They were slipping through her fingers like sand. She pulled over and took a deep breath. She remembered she had left London. She remembered she wanted a change. But Oakhaven? The name felt like a dream she had forgotten upon waking. Elena looked in the rearview mirror. She looked tired, and her heart was still heavy with the memories of her old life. The stress, the mistakes, the long nights. She smiled. It was painful, but it was hers. She put the car in gear and drove toward the sunrise, ready to turn over a new leaf, this time without any shortcuts.